you've told us a lot of the tactical things, right? Budget first, demonstrate how your budget aligns with what you say you're going to do, to the outcomes you're going to create. But I know from working with so many nonprofit leaders that sometimes there's something else. It's not just the tactical, but that organizations that consistently win, right? They followed the formula. There's something else. They're not lucky. They're doing something. There's something I don't want to say magical. It looks magical, but I know what it is, and I want you to share it with us. But yeah, what are those consistently successful organizations doing differently beyond just hey, they've got these components, they're prepared, they've got the checklist. There's got to be something else.
Right.
Because if not, everyone would just follow your formula and
Right.
we'd all be winners.
Right. Right. So I want to say strategy and strategic planning, but maybe not in the sense that most people will think of when they think
Mhm.
of that. I think a strategic plan is really important. Today, strategic planning, though, looks very different than it did even 5 years ago. When I was with my firm, we did thousands of strategic plans every year. And sometimes they aligned heavily with financials, and sometimes they didn't. And even back then, those that didn't align with money weren't successful because they were a plan of a to-do list and they weren't really a way of thinking. And so when I say strategy, I mean, today, when you're working strategies, strategic plans should come way down, much shorter
Mhm.
timelines.
Yeah.
But they are having conversations about sustainability, about aligning outcomes. They're really thinking about this bigger picture.
Mhm.
And and then how are we going to plan for if there are downturns in the market, when uncertainty comes around and funding drives up, how do we start to look at in our strategy creating support funds? I worked with an organization, a large organization in Pittsburgh for a while, and when they started out on a new project, the first thing that they did was they raised money for a sustainable fund to finance
Mm.
that. If it was a capital project, they raised the capital maintenance and repair fund in advance of raising
Mm.
the money to actually do the capital project. They thought about, if I'm going to develop these programs, what do I need in terms of reserves to be able to sustain that? So thinking along those lines in terms of strategy and really tying the money to the strategy, I think
Mhm.
is so important. Um, and I think that they're planning for a future long before they're in the year. Like we
Yeah.
talked about that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Not You don't want to just be building a budget 3 months before your year starts. Those people who have been able to sustain their organization, even in the face of funding cuts and things like that, have been planning and are ready. They're
Yeah.
prepared. And I
Yeah.
think that's the overall theme of this conversation, at least from my perspective, is
Yeah.
preparedness, right? Being ready. Because if you're running a nonprofit, you understand uncertainty. And
Mhm.
uncertainty is your middle name. Now, how do you prepare um, as much as possible? And I think not just strategic planning, but planning for scenarios
Yeah.
is so important today. Today, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
And if you haven't thought about that long before the shoe drops, then you are not going to be winning, both
Mhm.
in terms of winning grants and in terms of long-term sustainability. So,
Yeah.
we have some free resources on our website for scenario planning and things like that. And I would encourage everyone to start to have these types of conversations with their board and their staff.